The news is shaking fans everywhere. The Chi is ending after season 8. For years, this show has been more than just entertainment. It's been a mirror of life on the south side of Chicago, showing us the struggles, the love, the friendships, and the heartbreaks of a community that feels all too real. And now, as the final chapter is confirmed, fans are left with one big question. Why does a show with such a strong voice have to end? When The Chi first aired back in 2018, it instantly stood out as something special. Created by Lena Waithe, the series wasn't just another TV drama, it was a groundbreaking story about people often left out of mainstream television. It wasn't about superheroes, it wasn't about fantasy, and it wasn't about picture-perfect lives. It was raw, it was real, and it was deeply connected to the city of Chicago. From its very first episodes, the show introduced us to the lives of everyday people facing the challenges of survival, community, and hope. It felt authentic because it didn't sugarcoat reality, and that honesty quickly pulled viewers in. One of the biggest impacts of The Chi is the way it gave a voice to stories that are rarely told on television. It didn't shy away from topics like gun violence, poverty, systemic injustice, and the broken systems that shape people's lives. At the same time, it showed love, family bonds, and dreams that make communities strong. This balance between hardship and hope helped the series stand out and resonate with so many people. Viewers saw parts of their own lives, their neighborhoods, or their communities reflected back at them. And for others, it opened a window into a world they may never have understood otherwise. Another part of the legacy is the characters themselves. They weren't written as stereotypes, but as layered human beings who carried both flaws and strengths. Each character had depth and complexity that made them feel real. Whether it was a young boy trying to navigate the dangers of his environment, a mother fighting to protect her children, or leaders trying to hold a community together, these stories made audiences care deeply, episode after episode, season after season. By the time the news of the final season arrived, it wasn't just about a show ending, it felt like a personal loss of people viewers had grown with over years. What also makes The Chi unforgettable is how it became more than just a TV show. It became a cultural statement. It highlighted Chicago in a way that wasn't about flashy skylines or tourist attractions. Instead, it focused on the South Side, the challenges, the resilience, and the everyday beauty of the people who live there. This representation mattered. For many viewers, it was the first time they saw their community on screen without judgment, portrayed with dignity and truth. That impact is not something that fades when the credits roll. It lingers, shaping conversations and inspiring future storytellers. And, as The Chi prepares for its final bow, this impact will always remain its greatest achievement. It's not just a drama series, it's a reminder of the power of television to tell stories that matter. That's why fans are so emotional about the ending, because saying goodbye to The Chi feels like saying goodbye to a piece of history that helped redefine what Black television could look like and what kinds of stories deserve to be told. Looking back at The Chi, one of the most powerful things about the series has been how it grew with its audience. From season 1 all the way up to season 7, every chapter of the show built upon the last, showing not only the changes in the characters but also the changes in the community itself. This wasn't a series that stayed still. It evolved, just like real life. Each season added new layers, new struggles, and new triumphs that kept fans deeply invested. Season 1 was all about introduction. It pulled us right into the heart of the South Side of Chicago and gave us characters who felt like neighbors you might pass by on the street. At its core, the first season was about how one tragic event, a young boy's death, set off a chain of consequences that tied strangers together. That choice of storytelling made it clear from the beginning that The Chi wasn't just about individual lives. It was about how connected we all are, how one moment can ripple through an entire community. It was raw, it was heartbreaking, but it also carried sparks of humanity that made you want to keep watching. As the seasons moved forward, the show grew bolder. Seasons 2 and 3 leaned heavily into character development, peeling back layers and showing us who these people truly were beyond the surface. Relationships became more complex. Romantic love, friendships, and family bonds were tested against the backdrop of constant challenges. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about growth, about finding out who you are when life refuses to make things easy. This is when audiences really started to form emotional attachments to certain characters, rooting for them as if they were real people trying to make it through the same kind of struggles many viewers knew all too well. By the time season 4 arrived, The Chi had taken on even bigger themes. It became more than a neighborhood story, it became a mirror of larger societal issues. politics, leadership, and community power started to play a much bigger role. We saw how individuals, when given a chance, could step up and try to change the very systems that often worked against them. But the show never painted this as simple or easy. It showed the sacrifices, the moral compromises, and the dangers that come with wanting to make a difference. This gave the Chi a new dimension, turning it into not just a personal drama but also a political one, with questions that made audiences think about the real world beyond their TV screens. Seasons 5, 6, and 7 brought even more shifts, both in tone and storytelling. At this point, the series had established itself as a platform for telling stories about resilience and transformation. We saw characters evolve into leaders, parents, lovers, and fighters in ways that were both inspiring and heartbreaking. Some people lost their way, while others found a new purpose. This unpredictability kept the audience hooked. You never really knew who was going to rise, who was going to fall, or how their choices would affect the neighborhood. At the same time, the show continued to explore themes of identity, healing, and community rebuilding. It wasn't just about problems, it was also about solutions. About people trying to carve out a better future despite all the odds stacked against them. Another unique element across the seasons was how the Chi managed to balance heavy issues with moments of joy and lightness. For every scene that broke your heart, there were others that made you laugh, smile, or even feel hopeful. That contrast reflected real life because even in the toughest neighborhoods, there is still laughter, there is still love, there are still dreams worth holding on to. And by weaving these lighter threads into darker storylines, the series reminded us that joy can exist even in the hardest of circumstances. As the seasons unfolded, fans realized they weren't just watching a TV show, they were growing alongside these characters. Every season felt like a chapter in a much larger novel, where the struggles of one generation blended into the hopes of the next. Watching the Chi was like living through a timeline of change, where characters who were once uncertain kids became decision-makers, and where families who seemed broken found new ways to survive. The consistency of this growth across 7 seasons is one of the reasons why hearing that Season 8 will be the last feels so emotional. It's not just an ending, it's the closing of a journey that has been unfolding slowly, carefully, and with so much heart over the years. When you step back and think about it, the journey of the Chi is a rare achievement in television. Few shows manage to carry the same emotional weight, season after season, without losing their spark. But the Chi did it by staying true to its purpose, telling real stories about real people. And as we prepare for the final season, reflecting on this journey makes it clear why this show will be remembered long after the final credits roll. When fans first heard the news that the Chi would be ending with Season 8, the reaction was a mix of shock, sadness, and disbelief. After all, this is a series that still feels alive, still feels like it has more stories left to tell. So the question, naturally, rises: why stop now? Why would a show that has found such a passionate audience and that continues to resonate with important themes choose to close its doors? The answer, as with most things in television, is layered. It's not just one reason. It's a combination of creative vision, timing, and the reality of the entertainment world. One of the clearest reasons is creative control. Lena Waithe, the creator of the Chi, has often spoken about storytelling as a complete journey. She's never been the type of storyteller who drags a series out simply because it's popular. Instead, her focus has always been on telling stories that matter, that feel true, and that carry weight. Ending the series with Season 8 may be her way of making sure the Chi doesn't lose its voice or become watered down by repetition. By choosing to end now, she's ensuring that the show goes out on its own terms, with a final chapter that feels intentional rather than forced. This isn't cancellation, it's conclusion, and in many ways, that makes it more powerful. Another factor is legacy. Television is full of shows that went on far too long, dragging through unnecessary seasons until the storylines became thin and the characters felt exhausted. The Chi has never been about endless drama for the sake of drama. It has been about authentic, layered storytelling. Ending at Season 8 protects that legacy. It guarantees that when people look back at this series, they'll see a strong body of work that stayed consistent in tone and purpose from start to finish. It's better to be remembered for ending with impact than for overstaying its welcome. There's also the reality of television production to consider. Every show is tied to contracts, networks, budgets, and ratings. While the Chi has built a loyal fan base, Showtime and now Paramount Global, which controls the network, has been reshaping its lineup in recent years. Networks often weigh which shows to continue, which to cut, and which to wrap up gracefully. In this climate, where streaming services dominate and traditional cable is shifting, It makes sense that the Chi would be given one last season to finish properly rather than being abruptly cancelled. In many ways, fans should see it as a gift, the chance to actually say goodbye instead of having the story cut short without closure. But beyond the business side, there's also an emotional truth. Stories, just like lives, have natural endings. The characters of the Chi have grown, changed, and reached points in their journeys where the arcs are ready to close. Think about it. The kids who once wandered the neighborhood in Season 1 are no longer kids. They're adults now, facing new responsibilities, new dreams, and new challenges. To keep dragging their stories beyond a natural end might cheapen the very authenticity that drew people to the show in the first place. Season 8, then, becomes the right moment to tie threads together, to give each character a sense of resolution that feels earned. It's also worth noting that Lena Waithe and the creative team have other projects on the horizon. Storytellers rarely stop creating when one series ends, they simply move forward to the next canvas. For Lena, the Chi may have been one of her biggest breakthroughs, but it won't be her last contribution to television. By ending this chapter, she opens the door for new stories, new voices, and perhaps new shows that will carry the same kind of weight and cultural resonance. Fans may feel a loss, but they can also feel excitement knowing that the spirit of the Chi will live on in future projects from its creator and cast. In the end, the reason Season 8 is the final chapter is because it's time. The show has told the story it was meant to tell. It has given us unforgettable characters, unforgettable moments, and unforgettable truths about life, community, and resilience. To end now doesn't erase any of that, it actually cements it. It means the series will be remembered for its strength, not its decline. It means fans will always be able to revisit the 8 seasons and feel the completeness of the journey. And perhaps most importantly, it means the legacy of the Chi will remain intact, inspiring not only viewers but future storytellers who want to tell real, human stories that matter. As hard as it is to accept, there is power in knowing when to say goodbye. And by ending with Season 8, the Chi is giving us one last gift, a chance to celebrate its legacy, honor its characters, and carry its lessons forward long after the final episode airs. With the announcement that the Chi will end after Season 8, fans everywhere are left wondering, how will it all wrap up? Will the characters we've grown attached to finally find peace? Will the community find healing? Or will we see more heartbreak before the final curtain falls? The truth is, no one outside of the creative team knows exactly what's in store. But we can make some thoughtful predictions based on where the story has been and where it seems to be heading. And if there's one thing fans can expect, it's that the Chi won't go out quietly. It's going to deliver an ending that feels powerful, emotional, and unforgettable. One of the biggest expectations for Season 8 is closure. Over the years, the Chi has given us characters whose journeys have been filled with twists, losses, and moments of transformation. For some, this final season may bring redemption. We might see certain characters finally overcome struggles that have haunted them since earlier seasons. Others may find love, stability, or a sense of purpose that they've been searching for. At the same time, not every ending will be happy, and that's part of the authenticity that defines the Chi. Just like in real life, some stories may close with heartbreak, with sacrifices, or with hard truths that remind us of the costs of living in a world shaped by struggle. Fans can also expect deeper exploration of the themes that have always been central to the show: community, responsibility, and the fight for justice. Season 7 leaned heavily into political and social dynamics, showing how leaders rise and fall, and how communities wrestle with decisions that affect everyone. Season 8 is likely to build on this, offering a conclusion that doesn't just focus on individuals, but on the South Side as a whole. The question may not just be what happens to each character, but what happens to the community they all share. Will it move toward healing and strength, or will the cycle of pain continue? That tension will likely define the season. Another expectation is that Season 8 will feel like a tribute. When shows end, especially ones that have touched audiences deeply, the final season often becomes a celebration of everything that came before. That doesn't mean it will be light or nostalgic all the way through, but it does mean we'll probably see storylines that honor the journey. Past relationships may resurface, old conflicts might come full circle, and moments from earlier seasons could echo back in surprising ways. This type of storytelling gives fans the chance to feel that everything they watched has been building toward this final conclusion. It's not just about wrapping things up, it's about paying respect to the story as a whole. Season 8 also carries the weight of legacy. Fans want to see justice done to the characters they've loved for years. It's not enough for the show to simply end, it has to end well. That means giving us answers, tying up loose ends, and leaving us with something meaningful to take away, whether it's through final monologues, powerful imagery, or shocking twists. The last season has the responsibility of delivering closure that feels worthy of the 7 seasons that came before. The creative team knows this, and that's why many believe they will pour everything they have into making sure the last episodes are unforgettable. Of course, fans are also expecting emotional moments. The Chi has always thrived on its ability to make people feel, whether that's through heartbreak, joy, anger, or hope. The final season will almost certainly bring scenes that make audiences cry, cheer, and reflect on the power of storytelling. These moments won't just be entertainment. They'll be reminders of why the show mattered in the first place. Expect heartfelt conversations, powerful goodbyes, and turning points that resonate long after the final credits roll. Another thing to watch for is the potential for surprise. The Chi has never been predictable, and it would be out of character for the final season to play it safe. There may be shocking twists, unexpected alliances, or even character returns that fans didn't see coming. Ending a series gives writers the freedom to take risks, because they don't have to worry about keeping the story going beyond this point. That means Season 8 has the chance to deliver moments that completely stun viewers, moments that make people go back and re-watch earlier episodes to see the clues they may have missed. In the end, what fans can truly expect from Season 8 is a proper farewell. It won't be about leaving everything neat and perfect. That's not the Kai's style. Instead, it will be about leaving things honest, raw, and true to the spirit of the series. The final season will remind us of everything we loved about the show while also pushing us to think about its bigger message. It will close the book on the characters we've grown with, but it will also leave behind ideas and emotions that stay with us long after the finale. So when The Chi returns for its 8th and final season, viewers should be ready for more than just television. They should be ready for a goodbye that feels like both an ending and a beginning and ending to a story we've followed for years, and a beginning of its place in history as one of the most authentic, powerful dramas to come out of modern television. The anticipation isn't just about what happens next, it's about how this story, this community, and these characters will take their final bow. As soon as the announcement was made that The Chi would end with Season 8, the internet lit up with reactions. Fans on social media flooded timelines with disbelief, sadness, and nostalgia. For many, The Chi is more than just a TV show, it's a mirror of their own lives, their own neighborhoods, and their own experiences. Losing a show like this feels personal, because it gave representation to people and communities that are often ignored or misunderstood in mainstream media. It wasn't just about characters on a screen. It was about finally seeing yourself, your family, your struggles, and your dreams reflected in a story that felt real. That kind of connection doesn't end easily, and that's why the news hit so hard.